Hi guys, and welcome to Gas City Gaming's Amonkhet Set review. In this video, we'll be taking a look at all of the red cards in the set. Keep in mind, while we're watching this video, we're going to be looking at most of these cards in a limited context, so in drafts, in sealed events, like your pre-release, for example. That's how we're going to be evaluating these cards. If a card I think is good enough to make it into standard, I will mention it kind of in the formats I think it may happen. But for the most part, it's going to be in that limited context that we're going to talk about these. Now, I will preface this by saying I am not, like a GP top 8 or a Pro Tour player or anything crazy like that. I'm just the guy who's been playing the game for a few years and would love to share his opinion on some of these new cards with you. And I would love to hear back from you guys below. Comment down below or follow me, tweet at me. I'd love to hear back from you guys. But for the red cards, our first card we're going to take a look at is Amonkhet Crasher. It is 2 generic mana and a red for a creature. It's a Minotaur Warrior at uncommon. It is a 3/2 with haste, so decent already. You may exert Amonkhet Crasher as it attacks. When you do, target creature can't block this turn. So in limited, you aren't always going to curve out perfect, 1, 2, 3, 4. So a lot of times in limited, this guy's actually going to make it in on his own on turn 3 because they might just have one creature. They might not have any. If they don't have any on the board, I'm not going to exert it when I attack. The next turn, if they do, if I'm on the play, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, play this guy, attack for 3. Next turn, they play a blocker, attack for another 3, plus play something else as well. So Amonkhet Crasher is just what it looks like. It's a really good aggressive card for your aggressive red decks. I would gladly play a couple of these guys. Battlefield Scavenger is generic and a red for a jackal. It's a jackal rogue. It's an uncommon 2/2. You may exert Battlefield Scavenger as it attacks. Whenever you exert a creature, any creature, you may discard a card. If you do draw a card, you may rummage. We call that mechanic. So note that with Battlefield Scavenger, if you exert any creature, so if you exert the Amonkhet Crasher while Battlefield Scavenger is out, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. If you exert both, you get to do that twice. Whenever you exert a creature, right? A creature singular. So if you exert multiple creatures, you get to do that multiple times. So for red, this is kind of your card filtering. Because it has that for red, it's a little underpowered as far as red aggro goes. It's just a 2/2 for 2. Doesn't have haste, so it attacks turn 3 with our Amonkhet Crasher. Again, is definitely good for that. Early card filtering for that. So again, in your aggressive decks, 1 or 2 of these would be pretty great. Blazing Volley is a red mana for a common sorcery. Blazing Volley deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. Against the right type of deck, this can be devastating. Like if your opponent is playing like a Kenra and fills up the board with 1/1s, you killed them all for 1 red. That seems pretty good. How this is most of the time going to be used, though, is to finish off your opponent's creatures post-combat, or to make blocking really complicated if you do it before combat for them, right? I would definitely do it post-combat. You want to attack, because they're going to do the things, block your 2/2 with their 2/3. That's what they know. Okay, mine will live. It'll be fine. They're going to make multiple blocks like that, probably, in which case this will hopefully be able to finish off multiple creatures, kind of catch you up if you're a little bit behind from your aggro deck once the board stalls out a little bit. But because of that, I'd be glad to play 1. I wouldn't want to do multiples. Like, if I get multiples in hand, I can do 2 and 3 to all their creatures, but it's not often going to happen, unfortunately. A lot of times, like I said, this is going to finish off creatures post-combat. Bloodlust Insider is a single red for a common human warrior that says tap, target creature gains haste until end of turn. Definitely a solid 1-drop, actually. I would be alright with playing 1 of these. Maybe 2. It's basically for your first turn. Unless they kill this, every creature you play for the rest of the game is going to have haste. That seems good, right? Like that gives our 2-drop the Jackal haste. That gives whatever you want to give haste, basically, right? So because I would be okay with playing 1 or 2 of these guys. It does what your red deck wants to do. It makes it more aggressive for no actual mana cost for you, right? To victory, to glory, to eternity. Flavor text. Blood Rage Brawler is generic and a red for an uncommon creature. It is a Minotaur Warrior. Minotaur is kind of a theme in red in this set, just like our last god-themed set, Theros. When Blood Rage Brawler enters the battlefield, discard a card, and it's a 4/3 for 2. So, for example, you play Bloodlust Insider turn 1. Play this turn 2. You're swinging for 4 turn 2. Play your on-crop Crasher. You're swinging for 4, 5, 6, 7 turn 2. Even if they have a blocker, your on-crop Crasher exerts, making it unable to block, and you've done 11 on turn 3 already. So you can get some real nut draws with these aggro cards. Even with the discarding a card, I'm okay with this. Because it's going to make real aggro really fast. They're going to have to start dropping creatures or dropping removal really fast to slow you down if you curve out with this guy. Brute Strength is back again. It's generic and a red mana. For a common instant, it says target creature gets +3/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. Really good against, if you're playing against token decks. Just a good... this is how red kind of removes things. Very rarely will you see a red card that says destroy target creature. Maybe you'll see artifact, something like that. Land, demolish, for example. But very rarely will you see remove target creature. This is red's removal. Pumping a blocked creature or pumping a blocking creature, usually a blocked creature because you're attacking with red, is how red removes things. This removes things and hopefully tramples over for some damage also. So even with a little pump to toughness, your creature might even live. 3/3 blocking a 3/3, this will let you survive. So Brute Strength, I would very gladly play 1 or 2 of these as well. By Force, X and a red, Sorcery for an uncommon, destroy X target artifacts. This is a sideboard card. It's a good sideboard card if your opponent has some good artifacts. This is, I think, more attempting to see standard to destroy artifacts. That's what this is for. It's not really for limited too much. Your opponent might play a couple good, like the monuments, something like that. But other than that, you're not going to be playing... It doesn't even say artifacts or enchantments. I think I've said enchantments. Maybe X red, destroy target X target artifacts or enchantments. I would do that, but there's so many enchantments and limited in this, then it would just be ridiculously overpowered. So this is more just to take care of servos, vehicles, that kind of thing, and standard is what this is made for. Cartouche of Zeal, the red Cartouche. It is red for an enchantment or a Cartouche. At common, enchant creature you control. When Cartouche of Zeal enters the battlefield, target creature can't block this turn. So again, 1 mana, your big blocker that you played out of your blue deck or your black deck or your white deck can't block. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has haste. So again, 1 red mana, it's kicker, haste, and target creature can't block this turn. It's pretty good. It's what your red decks want to be doing. They want to be sneaking in for damage and getting in for damage now. Again, I don't think any of the Cartouches are unplayable. I think they're all plenty playable. Combat Celebrant is 2 generic mana and a red for a creature. He's a human warrior, and a mythic, he's a 4/1. Odd stats, but here we go. If Combat Celebrant hasn't been exerted this turn, you may exert it as it attacks. When you do, untap all the creatures you control, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So there is a red card we'll see in a little bit. You can kind of combo out slightly, but notice how they don't, you can't untap and then give this guy Vigilance, because if it exerted on the same turn, right? You can have multiple turns with this guy if they for some reason don't block it. If they for some reason don't block us, I don't know what they're doing. They block this, this will die. So basically, this swings in with a bunch of stuff. You exert this. Whatever lives from your turn can swing in again. Hopefully their side of the board has been very depleted at that point, and they take more damage yet. That's the point behind this guy. And a very good aggressive deck with some burn spells, some rules like in the red-black aggressive deck. This guy can definitely wreck some really bad face and do pretty well. I would definitely be happy opening this as my promo or one of the mythics in my packs for sure. Consuming Fervor is a red mana for a uncommon enchantment aura. It says enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3 and has at the beginning of your upkeep put a -1/-1 counter on this creature. We'll see some. We've seen, if you've checked out the black card video, you'll see some big -1/-1 counter themes running around there. So a single red, this is splashable in a black deck or a black-green deck even, but just for the immediate, you put this on Trampler and it just gets ridiculous. Put this on something that's already big and it gets ridiculous. A couple of our big blockers like the Amonkhet, Baleful Amonkhet, those big old lifelinker, or just anything really that basically if you make something really big and get in with it, you're not going to need it to be big for long before you're winning, right? The -1/-1 counters will matter, but you want this to be just swing, 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 so you get your value out of it before the creature ends up dying. Deem Worthy. Generic mana and a red for an uncommon instant. Deem Worthy deals 7 damage to target creature and has cycling for generic and red. It also says when you cycle Deem Worthy, you can have it deal 2 damage to target creature instead. So you can do it early in the game to, finish off something after combat, remove a 3/2, something like that. Or if you get it, if you have pay 5 mana into this, it's just destroy target creature essentially. Because 7 damage is going to kill anything that isn't, that hasn't been pumped up with counters or buff spells. This is going to kill it. So the fact that it's instant speed is pretty good as well. So, this is left in your hand. You can play it on the end of your opponent's turn once they've dropped their big fatty. You're like, haha, kill it. And they've just essentially wasted their turn because you made their thing not live anymore. Desert Ceradon? I'm going to say Ceradon. Desert Ceradon. 5 generic and a red for a common creature beast. It cycles for a single red. Is a 6/4. It's solid. Sometimes your red-green deck just needs these big things. And if your red deck, say you play 16 land in your red deck, because it's really aggressive, low curve, other than this guy, and you don't quite get there, you can always cycle it for a mana to get to your 5th mana for our Deem Worthy for a removal or something like that, for example, as well. So, could make the cut if I don't get any other big red bombs like we'll see later. Electrify. This is some pretty good red removal as well. Just like Deem Worthy was for another mana to do 7. This is deal 4 damage to target creature is going to kill most things. It kills our Ceradon that we just looked at. 3 generic and a red for a common instant. Electrify deals 4 damage to target creature. This kills a lot of things in this format. It does. I would definitely play a couple of these. Again, this is your red removal. Emberhorn Minotaur. 3 generic and a red for a common Minotaur Warrior. It is a 4/3. You may exert Emberhorn Minotaur as it attacks. When you do, it gets +1/+1 and gains menace until end of turn. So if in your aggro red decks, this is getting you play, 2, maybe 3 of these guys, because it is a common. You could definitely get multiples, and it's going to be a 5/4 menace. So if you have multiples out and their board isn't that big, they only have a couple big fatties or something, they might be able to block 1, but a couple are getting through and anything else as well. So definitely happen playing multiples of the Emberhorn Minotaur in some of my aggressive red decks. Flameblade Adept. It's a single red mana for a uncommon. It's a Jackal Warrior with Menace. It's a 1/2. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, Flameblade Adept gets +1/+0 until end of turn. There's a few deck lists going around where there's a turn 3 combo kill. 3? Yeah, I want to say 3 combo kill in standard. Basically, because you're going to play this, play Noose Constrictor, turn 3 or 4. Play this, play Noose Constrictor, discard all your cards. I think it's turn 3 or 4, sorry. I discard all your cards to Noose Constrictor. It gets huge. This gets huge. You play the black card that gets you all your cycled or discarded cards back in your hand. You discard them all again. Noose Constrictor gets even bigger. This gets even bigger, and you swing for lethal on turn 3 or 4. So, Limited is definitely a good 1-drop as well, because you're probably going to be cycling a couple cards. It has Menace, so it could get through even on turn 2 or turn 3. You can pump it up with any of the pump spells we've seen so far. I'm happy to play my little Jackal Warrior Flameblade Adept buddy. It's a really good aggressive card for red. Fling! Love Fling. Love Fling so much. Generic mana and a red for a common instant. As an additional cost to cast Fling, sacrifice a creature. Fling deals damage equal to the sacrifice creature's power to target creature or player. So you discard a bunch of cards. Your Jackal Adept thing guy is huge. You hit somebody with it for 6. They're at 3 or 4 left. You fling it at them as well. And they take another 6 or whatever its power is, right? That's why I love Fling. It kind of gives something double strike, right? For those temporary pumps like this, or like we had our card, or Consuming Fervor, or the other red pump card that we had, I forget the name of, Brute Strength. Thank you, Brute Strength. Brute Strength, hit you for a bunch, fling it at you for a bunch more. Gives it double strike, right? That's how I kind of see it. So I do really enjoy Fling. Glorious End. It's really interesting mythic. 2 generic and a red for a mythic instant that says, end the turn. End the turn. At the beginning of your next end step, you lose the game. So how this goes is you'll usually have win on board, right? So, okay, the way things are right now, I'm going to win. Your opponent plays a board wipe or plays something where they get a bunch of blockers out, and you just say, nope, end the turn. Because what end the turn does, if we read the brackets here, exile all spells and abilities on the stack, including this card. The player whose turn it is discards down to his or her maximum hand size. Damage wears off, and this turn, and until end of turn effects end. So everything stops, that's the end turn, and it's your turn. So if they're about to play something that prevents you from winning the game on the next turn, you play this, and then you win. Now, if you for some reason don't win, like if they still have mana up, and they do something on your turn, like they impeccable timing one of your creatures and kill it, you're dead at your end step, unfortunately. Now if you have Gideon and you can't lose, it doesn't matter. But anyway, Glorious End is really cool. I don't know if it'll see limited play because it is kind of weird like that. It could see play like just stops. It's almost kind of a red counter spell. Whatever you're gonna do, stop it. It's my turn. Swing win. So in those aggro decks, could see play for sure. And this guy could actually go surprisingly deep in some formats. Say I'm playing Saheeli combo. Granted, if nothing gets banned. I'm playing Saheeli combo. I'm going to go off next turn. I got Saheeli out, Felidar Guardian in my hand. I'm ready to go. Okay, they go. They're on their turn. They try to shock Saheeli down. Or they tap out for something that's going to prevent me from going off. I play Glorious End, end the turn. My turn comes, Guardian, Infinite combo, win. Right, so this guy could definitely see constructed as well, and even goes like there are cards that do the similar effect as well, that end the turn. So this could see play in later even formats like Modern, Legacy, etc. as well. But Glorious End, really interesting, really cool card, kind of space they haven't been to in a while, so interesting to see. Glorybringer, 3 generic and 2 red for a rare creature dragon. Not a lot of dragons on this format because Nicol Bolas is around. He's a dragon, doesn't like other dragons. It has flying, haste, and you may exert Glorybringer as it attacks. When you do, it deals 4 damage to target non-dragon creature an opponent controls. And it is a 4/4 on its own. So, turn 5, you drop this, you hit for 4, you kill one of their things. Seems good. They hopefully have to spend their turn rebuilding. So in your next turn, this doesn't untap, it doesn't necessarily matter. In your next turn, you swing for 4 and kill the thing they played to start rebuilding. And so, Glorybringer, in and of itself, could bring the end of some games. If there's bannings in the current standard, like right now we have Saheeli, you've seen this if you've watched some of the other videos, if we have Saheeli combo and Mardu vehicles, if there are some bannings for those decks, then this guy sees play, in my opinion. He's that kind of red dragon that we've had before, like Storm Breath, Thunderbreak Regent, kind of things that we've seen before. He's that kind of big red dragon. He's definitely gooder. If he didn't have haste, maybe not quite good enough because he wouldn't get swing until turn 6 for 4. But because he can swing turn 5 even earlier with ramp, turn 4, definitely I think could see play because of that. Harsh Mentor. This, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, generic mana and a red for a rare human cleric. It's a creature, it's a 2/2, it's a bear. But whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land on the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, Harsh Mentor deals 2 damage to that player. A mana ability is something like, tap this creature, add green to your mana pool. That's a mana ability. Tap this artifact, add red to your mana pool. That's a mana ability. But, for example, the gods, so Oketra, pay 3 and a white, make a 1/1 soldier with vigilance. If you do that, this guy's going to deal 2 damage to you. Every time you do that. Pay mana to, put a counter on something. He's going to deal 2 damage to you. Any other kind of activated ability. I'm real scared of this guy because in Modern, I play Lantern Control. Lantern Control has a bunch of artifacts that you tap to do things that aren't mana things. This guy kills me real bad if I'm playing my Lantern Control deck. This guy is definitely going to see play in Standard because of that. Because crewing is an activated ability. Yep. So Mardu Vehicle is going to have some trouble against this guy. Now note this doesn't hit Saheeli. Granted the 2 damage would, but it doesn't say activated or abilities of a planeswalker. It just says artifact, creature, land. So it doesn't hit Saheeli, but definitely nerfs Mardu Vehicles pretty hard. They have a lot of removal. They're not hurting for removal, but it would hit that deck real hard if they don't have any. Harsh Mentor, we're going to see play in Standard and Modern. Further back, maybe? But Modern for sure, it nerfs a lot of decks in Modern right now. So Harsh Mentor, a real good card. Get yourself some. Hazoret's Favor, 2 generic and a red. as a rare enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may have target creature you control get +2/+0 and gain haste until the end of turn. If you do, sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. So if you have a big green tramply dude, this is good. The thing that red sometimes runs into trouble is when the board starts to stall out. When the board starts to stall out, they want to draw their removal. They want to draw, that creature, and that creature can't block. They want to draw, give it +X and trample, things like that. This doesn't give trample. It gains haste, but it doesn't gain trample, and you have to sack it. Now it says may. You don't have to give something that. You have an option, which is good for you, but your deck's got to be pretty aggressive in order for me to want to play this, and the other deck has to stall out a little bit. If you're playing, against another aggressive deck, I think they're eventually going to win out against you because you're going to be sacrificing your creature sometimes, and they're it might trade with theirs because of +2/+0, but they could just chump block it and you sacrifice yours at the end of the turn anyway. So this, I'm a little shy about this guy. Could be good if you curve out really well, if you have a really aggressive low curve and just keep flinging stuff at him. You get this, you get a couple copies of Fling maybe, because it gives it the +2/+0, but makes me more nervous than excited. Speaking of Hazoret, Hazoret the Fervent, it's 3 generic mana and a red for a legendary creature god. It's a mythic. It has indestructible, haste, and it is a 5/4. Hazoret the Fervent, its clause here, can't attack or block unless you have 1 or fewer cards in hand. So you have to be heckbent, they call that. It has 2 generic mana and a red. You can discard a card, and Hazoret shocks each opponent. Seems good. Know that its ability helps fuel its thing. You can do that multiple times, and there are a lot of cards, we've seen a couple already, that get bonuses when you discard things or when you cycle things. So this lets you discard the card, get those benefits, and let Hazoret attack. Seems pretty good. All the gods are playable. And limited, sealed for sure, if you're all close, because you can splash them. They're all just single colored mana, right? So they're all playable for sure. Play it and you'll enjoy it. Heartpiercer Manticore is 2 generic mana and 2 red for a rare. It's getting kind of rare creature Manticore. When Heartpiercer Manticore enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, Heartpiercer Manticore deals damage equal to that creature's power to target creature or player. It also has Embalm per 5 and a red. So it's kind of like Fling on a stick. When it enters, you can fling something at your opponent or creature. Or a creature your opponent controls. So you want to attack in the hopes that they would trade their creature, hit them in the face. You play your Heartpiercer Manticore, and then you can fling it either at their face again to give it pseudo kind of double strike, or at the creature you actually wanted to die. Then it has Embalm again. I think it's one of the few, if only, red creatures with Embalm. So really good that way because you get that fling trigger twice. Kind of could be pretty good. Heartpiercer Manticore, I'm definitely going to play this if I'm in red. It's just that really good mana cost for it, really good effect that red wants, and actually has recursion in red. There's not a lot of that, so I would definitely play my Heartpiercer Manticore. Hyena Pack, 2 generic mana and 2 red for a 3/4. It's a common, it's a Hyena. Not as aggressive, I'd rather have my 4/3 than a 3/4, but you can't win them all. This guy is just kind of your green-red deck that you want to be in, where maybe you're not as fast, not as aggressive. That's the deck I want to play my Hyena Packs in. There's other things I'd rather pay 4 for in the aggressive decks. Limits of Solidarity is 3 generic mana and a red for an uncommon sorcery. It says gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn. Has cycling for 2. One of my favorite things to do in Magic is, they call this a Threaten effect. The first card with this, I think, was just called Threaten. Is you take somebody else's creature, you hit them with it, and then you fling it at them too. Or some kind of sacrifice out. But this is just the Stone Cold Nutter Butters. Because you get so much value out of it. For 6 mana, you steal their creature, hopefully hit them with it if they don't block. Because they want to get it back, right? Probably. So, unless they're taking lethal from it, I kind of want my creature back. So then you fling it at them, say, you know what? You're not going to get it back, and you're going to take a bunch of damage. In my red decks, in Limited and Sealed, I'm actually happy playing one of these, because I can usually steal something big from them, and maybe even get to do something sweet with that. So, it removes a blocker from them. It's kind of a 2-creature swing, so I usually like playing one of these in my Limited decks. Magnus Prey is back, and really good actually in this format. It's red for a common instant. Magnus Prey deals 2 damage to target creature. If it would die this turn, exile it instead. Now you can use this a couple ways. If it's a little creature, you can just kill it and it exiles. You can use this to finish something off post-combat as well. Interesting thing with this is if you hit a creature that has Embalm, it just gets straight to exile. It doesn't hit the graveyard and they don't get a chance to recur it because if it would die, exile it, right? So because of that, Magnus Prey, I think is going to see more play. I would play a couple of these because of that. I'm just shocking a creature with a good effect afterwards that is going to be relevant in this format, I think is pretty good. I would play a couple of Magnus Preys pretty happily. Manticore of the Gauntlet is a 4 and red for a common Manticore. When it enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control. Manticore of the Gauntlet deals 3 damage to target opponent. Alright. I'm happy, you know, this is the kind of thing where you get that last little bit of reach, maybe that last little bit of 3 you didn't quite aggro enough over. You make something else yours a little bit smaller. At this point, like, you can do it to one of your, like, if you have your Jackal attendant guy, the 1/2 out still, that he's not going to do a whole lot anymore, make him a 0/1, he's still going to be able to block. And you have your man at the 5/4 that then bolts your opponent. So it gives you a little bit of reach that way, which is pretty good. I'd play a couple of these, and just a 5/4, like in your, it is a little more aggressive, so you could put it as kind of the curve topper in your red decks if you don't get, you know, some better creatures like the God or Heart Piercer Manticore. You could top your aggressive red deck out with a couple of these, because they're just a couple bolts to somebody's face. Like, they can put the counter on themselves even if they're the only creature, so you're going to get that bolt no matter what, which is pretty cool. Manticore, like I said, I'd play a couple of it in my limited decks, and I'd be okay with it if I don't get anything better. Minotaur Sure Shot. 2 generic mana and a red for a common Minotaur Archer has reach, and a generic mana red Minotaur Sure Shot gets +1/+0 until end of turn. I really like these kind of cards that have this new version of fire breathing. We pretty much don't really get actual fire breathing that much anymore. So I enjoy this 2/3 reach. It's going to be really good against those blue-white flyer decks because you can pump it up as big as you want it to block whatever you want and probably kill it. A Sure Shot Minotaur can also, you know, in your aggressive decks where you kill their creature, attack in with it, pump it up to a 4/3. 4 is 20% of their life. You know, you got a couple of these, you swing, you're going to have a good time with them. I play a couple of these guys, either in my green-red decks, they're more like the slower red decks, or the aggressive ones as well. I'd have a good time with it. Neffcrop Entangler is a generic mana and a red for a common human warrior with trample. You may exert Neffcrop Entangler as it attacks. When you do, it gets +1/+2 until end of turn. So it becomes a 3/3 for 2 with trample. It's decent. Again, in your aggro decks would be good. Doesn't block real well when the game levels out. If it does, again, you don't want it to do that in the first place, though. So because of that, I might be a little timid to play it. It would probably be one of my last creatures if my 2-drop spot was real weak or I'm really hurting for creatures. Then I would play it, but it's one of those things where if this doesn't turn sideways, it's bad for you. Nimble Blade Kenra is generic and a red for a creature Jackal. It's a black. It's common with prowess. Just your 1/3 with prowess. We've seen this in a couple sets now. I think we had one in Kaladesh as well. Just be good. There's kind of a blue-red Spells Matter deck out there that this guy fits really nicely into. And like I've said before, 1/3s for 2 with upside, which this is. I've played before, and I will play this guy. Pathmaker Initiative is generic and a red for a common human wizard. It's a 2/1 that has tap target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. So you're thinking, oh, so I get in 2? But what you do, you make it unblockable. Then, like our reach creature, our Sure Shot, you pump it up a bunch. Or you play Brute Strength on it. You know, you pump it. You make it bigger. You make it unblockable. Okay, that ability resolves. Then you pump it. Right? That's how you prefer to use this guy if you can. But also just doing 2 every turn is good, right? You want to play that on your Minotaur Sure Shot. It's a 2/3, so that, you know, it can't just get got. Essentially, it's your 2/3, so you can't be Magnus Preyed or given 2 -1/-1 counters and die, things like that. So that's the kind of creature I would want to do this with, and then hopefully pump it up bigger as well. So Pathmaker, I'd be happy playing 1 again. 2/1 is going to be real susceptible to the -1/-1 counters, and you might not always have something with power 2 or less. So Pursue Glory is a 3 generic mana and a red for a common instant. Attacking creatures get +2/+0 until end of turn. So again, make something unblockable, pump it. It also has cycling for 2 mana. Trumpet Blast is getting more expensive nowadays, and worse. Attacking creatures get +2/+0, so you declare your attackers. If you're playing a red-white aggro deck where you're going really wide, this is what you want to do. So, okay, how much are you at? You're at 8. Okay, you haven't blocked 3 of the creatures. Okay, everything gets +2/+0. I think that's enough, right? Then that's how you play this guy. And worst case scenario, you know, if you're not quite there, if you need that mana for your 5-drop, you can cycle it as well. This kind of thing, though, again, this is my kind of pseudo removal in red. It's not burn, but the things your opponent is going to block with are going to die to this, more than likely, at least a couple of them anyway. And hopefully you're going to get some damage in, so it's kind of that red pump / pseudo removal. So remember to look at these pump spells that way a little bit as well. So it's not just getting damage to your opponent, it's hopefully making the board a little bit into your advantage as well. Solstar Mage is a red mana for a rare human wizard creature. It is a 1/2 with prowess, and it says if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a creature an opponent controls, put that many -1/-1 counters on that creature instead. So what this does is it turns our Magnus Prey into 2 -1/-1 counters. But still, if that creature would die, it would get exiled as well. Or, you know, our deal 4 damage turns it into 4 -1/-1 counters, which can kill one of the gods, right? They're indestructible, so their -1/-1 counters matter. Our do 7 is 7 -1/-1 counters. So anything like that. Now, that's if any source, so all of your burn turns into -1/-1 counters, which is just better because it's permanent, right? So it can screw up combat math in different way. Maybe things don't then trade necessarily, but -1/-1 counters are better than burn, right? Because they're permanent, because they're going to stick around. So if I have a decent amount of burn spells, I would gladly play the Solstar Mage. Also, you play this, prowess on your 1/2 is good. You know, it's probably going to get in a couple times too. So for my 1-drop slots, we have a couple good red 1-drops, this being one of them. Sweltering Suns is a rare sorcery for 1 and 2 red, 1 generic mana and 2 red. Sweltering Suns deals 3 damage to each creature and has cycling for 3 generic mana. Sometimes everything has to die. This is the kind of thing where if the board's really tilting in your opponent's favor, you swing in there with everything, they're going to block because they think you have, you know, the worst trumpet blast or something. Then you end up Sweltering Suns and just everything dies, right? Just to level out the board again, and hopefully you can start up your aggro train back again, right? If their hand's empty or something like that. But this is the kind of card, if you're in that, excuse me, I would definitely play Posse, Copy, depending on how your deck is constructed. If you're playing the green-red deck, where you have some creatures with some bigger toughness, I might mainboard it. If you're playing the red-white deck, where this is going to kill everything you have out, might be a little more hesitant, might sideboard it. So, but I could see this seeing standard play just because there's like Anger of the Gods saw a lot of play. Granted, it did exile the creatures, which was important, which I think going forward will be important. But just sometimes you just need to do this. You just need to have this effect. Thresher Lizard is 2 generic mana and a red. Very common lizard creature. It's a 3/2. Thresher Lizard gets +1/+2 as long as you have 1 or fewer cards in hand. As long as you're heck bent, it's a 4/4 for 3. If this is the kind of thing you want to have, you have Hazret turn 3. You have this turn 4. You're going to be good. You're going to have a good time. Again, your aggro decks, red-green decks, maybe not so much. But in your red-white decks, red-black, maybe aggressive decks, definitely throw out a lizard or 2. Tormenting Voice. I'm not as big a fan of this art of it, to be honest with you. I liked the Khan's art. Common Sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Tormenting Voice, discard a card, draw 2 cards. This is your red card filtering, card draw, right? I would play a copy in my deck. Not more than 1, necessarily, but because I don't want to sit there and dirtle in my red aggressive decks, but I want to keep drawing gas. So for 1, I would play a copy of it in there for sure. Trial of Zeal, our red trial. This is a 2 generic mana and a red for an uncommon enchantment. We sense a theme. When Trial of Zeal enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So you get to bolt something. When a Cartouche enters the battlefield under your control, return Trial of Zeal to its owner hand. So we've seen, we're paying 4 for 4, and we're okay with that. We are paying 5 for 7 to a creature, and we're okay with that. I'm okay with this as well, especially because, you know, the trials are all playable and the cartouches are all playable. So there's a good chance I can bounce, you know, Trial of Zeal, red Cartouche, Trial of Zeal, kill a 6/6. Seems good. You know, I like that play. Again, I think that play is going to happen more often than we think. Because, again, if I get, you know, say I play a red-green deck, and I get one of each, I would gladly play all four. Gladly play the red Trial, the green Cartouche, and the red Cartouche very gladly. So you can have a lot of potential combos there. True Heart Twins. I love the art on this and have the theme of the card. 4 generic mana and a red is a uncommon Jackal warrior creature. It's a 4/4. You may exert True Heart Twins as it attacks. Whenever you exert a creature, any creature, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. So if you have a lot like the red-white exert deck, you exert all the things all the time, because if you exert 3 creatures in one turn, everything you control gets +3/+0 as long as you have True Heart Twins out. That's real good. I would definitely play, you know, one. If you get more than 1 True Heart Twins, I'd even play a couple, because that effect stacks. You have more than 1 True Heart Twins out, that effect stacks. And that can get real good real fast in your exert decks. Violent Impact. 3 generic mana and a red for a common sorcery. It says destroy target artifact or land. Cycles for 2. This is demolish with cycling. I don't think there's enough good artifacts. We'll see your artifacts. Check another. I don't think there's enough good artifacts like Kaladesh. You main deck artifact removal because it's Kaladesh and there's tons of artifacts. This one, not as much. Maybe sideboard something. Like if your opponent's playing a 3-color deck, if my opponent is, I usually sideboard in one of these if I'm playing red, just to keep them off that other color. Because they're splashing that 3rd color for something pretty good. Maybe one of the gods, right? All the gods are single color cost. So if I can keep them off that, I really want to. And, you know, if they never play their 3rd or if I'm stretched, I can cycle this card. So for me, this is usually one of from the sideboard. Our last red card of Amonkhet is Warfire Javelineer. It's 3 generic mana and a red for an uncommon Minotaur Warrior. When Warfire Javelineer enters the battlefield, it deals X damage to target creature an opponent controls, where X is the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard, and it's a 2/3. So like I said, there is a red-blue spell matters theme a little bit in both of those colors. This being one of those cards that cares about that. Well, when we get to if you get to the multicolored cards, we'll see a card that also cares really about that. So if you're in that deck, I would play a couple of these, because this is a removal spell. This is a removal spell stapled to a 2/3, and I would play that. I would even play a couple of them in a draft. If you draft that red-blue spells matter deck, I would gladly play a couple of these in it. Alright, so that's our last red card, Warfire Javelineer. I would love to hear what you guys think. Again, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, either way, please put it in the comments below. If I'm recording these before the pre-release, so if you've played with these cards at pre-release, how do they do for you? Did they perform? Was I right? Was I wrong? I'd love to hear back from you guys as well. You can follow me. Go ahead and follow at twitch.tv/Dave865, at Dave2619 on Twitter. Subscribe, comment, like, share, everything that helps spread the channel, helps spread Magic the Gathering. The more eyes we have on this, just the better it's going to get, guys. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing here. So I hope you guys have fun if you're headed to your pre-release or if you want this weekend. If you're just going to draft with some friends, some Amonkhet cards, if you're just going to play with Magic in general, have fun, guys. I know I have. I hope you do, and have an awesome, awesome day.